Daniel Noboa's team were very keen and really trying to push to win this in the first round. As soon as polls closed, they were kind of announcing, we've won this, Daniel Noboa's been re-elected. But the count so far is showing it much closer, and the latest figures are a 4% difference. He need over 50% or a 10% difference to call this in one go. So we're seeing that Ecuador is very divided between the right-wing incumbent president of Daniel Noboa, with very much aligning himself with Donald Trump in the United States, with Bukele Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, with a very aggressive approach towards crime, using very similar terminology in all three places of calling drug cartels or gangs terrorists, going for a military approach. He's just, describing it as a war in the country, as an active conflict. And the leftist approach of Luisa Gonzalez, which is coming much more with this talk of she's saying she wants security as well, but also saying that they want social justice as well. A very big turnout, about 83% of the electorate voted, so very, very high by international standards. But it looks like quite a nail biter if there's any change in that. But it seems difficult that there could be a clear winner today, and we will have a second runoff election on April the 13th. So a lot of people are really voting, and one of the number one issue, without a doubt, is the violence, is the drug cartel and gang-related violence. Ecuador went from a fairly peaceful country that didn't have the same problems of cartel violence that there are in Mexico, where I am, or in Brazil, or in Honduras, or Venezuela, or Colombia. And it went very quickly in a few years to being one of the most violent countries on the continent. And so people are very concerned about this, problems with extortion, problems with murder, problems with drug dealing, prisons erupting. Now, Daniel Noboa has a very hard-line discourse on this, but we have to see if he can actually get results. And whereas in El Salvador, he's kind of emulated the discourse, they've very effectively incarcerated all the gang members and reduced violence massively. In Ecuador, that hasn't been the case. So in 2 months, I think it's very important where the issue of drug violence is going to go, where the issue of murders are going to go. If it gets worse, then that will favor the challenger. If he manages to reduce it, that will favor the incumbent. And also how much he can align and get help from the Trump administration, who's very much trying to put himself and show himself an ally of Trump in Washington.